Okay, so I think everyone can hear and see me right now. Yes? Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Chaliye, so let us start with the today's class, right? Now, if you look at the today's class, one thing is, quite clear that today we will be discussing, chapter number, topic number 5 and 6 of international law. Okay. Now, again, I will have to sometime, remind that people who are joining us for the first time, what I do actually that I explain, topics and subtopic to be studied in a particular topic, right? And that will help, sort of tune up your preparations. Okay. And I will also talk about some of the concept in detail also, right? Not all the concept, but some of the concept in detail. Okay. And then I will discuss some previous year paper, right? And then also I will check one or two copy that the people have sent. Okay, right? So that is how the whole structure of this class is. Okay, so those who are older know that, but the newer ones I think I should explain it again. Okay, so let us start with the today's topic. See, today we are talking about topic number 5 and topic number 6 of international law, right? It is in the part B of the syllabus. You must be knowing already in paper 1. Now, if you look at these two topics, it says basically individuals, right? Individuals, then nationality, statelessness, and human rights. Now, the topic itself is quite unique, right? Because the topic itself gives you an idea that what kind of topic it is, right? It says that you have to talk about nationality, statelessness, and human right vis-a-vis individuals. Okay. Now, if you know the difference between humanitarian law and human right law, right? So the human rights law are basically a right which is given to person as an individual, and human rights law are basically given to a group of person rather than individual. Okay, right? So that is the primary difference between human right and humanitarian law. Humanitarian law is also sometimes referred as law of war. Okay, so in the event of war, there are certain rights which is given to you. But human rights law basically to the individuals. Okay, right? So that is why this topic itself is very nicely framed here. Individuals, nationality, statelessness, human rights, and procedure available for their enforcement. Right. So we will talk about multiple procedure that is available. Okay. Then topic number 6 is territorial jurisdiction of a state. Right. It means in international law or in any national law as well, right? Determining of jurisdiction remains a key aspect of any procedural laws, right? So without the determination of jurisdiction, the mechanism that is available do not comes into action. Okay, so it means the determination of jurisdiction is a key, key aspect, right? In national laws as well, in municipal law as well, and as well as it in the international law, right? So we'll talk about that. What are the different theories related to determination of jurisdiction and what is the importance, right? Then there are two distinct topics: extradition and asylum. Right now, this topic is a very simple topic. Always there is one question minimum from this particular topic. From both of them, there is one question. I've already told you. Nowadays, you cannot expect to pick and choose any particular question, right? By a particular topic. It means from each topic you can find one question, right? Always there is one question from each topic, right? So we have around 70 topic and we have around 60 question in both papers, right? So almost from each topic there is one question. Rarely you will find two questions from one topic, right? So it means, and that have changed from 2013, right? In the very beginning, if you remember in the first class itself, introduction class itself, I have shown you the last paper, and I have said, I have actually shown that how from each topic there is one question each. Okay, so it means the structure of the exam has changed since 2013. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Do not pick and choose any topic. Okay, you have to study each and every topic, right? So that is an important point here. Okay, now let us go into detail that what we have to study in these topics. What are the subtopic that we need to study or focus on? Now remember, these subtopic are basically related to a particular topic, right? And based on previous year paper, right? So subtopic basically determines the depth of study that is required in that particular topic. That you have to only study those topics, nothing else. Okay. Now obviously this I have taken from my notes that I gave to the law foundation students, right? Now, let us start with the subtopics. Now, if you look at the subtopic of first topic, that is statelessness, right? So you have to understand the meaning of statelessness. See, statelessness remains a very important aspect of international law. Why? Because once a person becomes stateless, he loses the protection of a particular individual's sovereignty. Now he becomes vulnerable, right? He practically become a no man, right? Now all the international law that applies to a particular person only if he's a person of a recognized state or a recognized country, right? So if he becomes stateless, then it is like having no parent in international law, right? So it means they are prone to lot of problems with respect to in a particular country, right? So even if you are remaining in a particular country and you are stateless, still that country is not going to protect you because you are not refugee. Understood that particular point, right? So that is why stateless is a very, very important phenomenon in international law, right? And there are multiple international law with respect to it, multiple conventions with respect to it. In fact, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights provide that every person have a right to a country. Okay, so he should not be rendered stateless. Okay, because once he becomes stateless, lot of problem, right? Lot of actual problem arises for him, right? So that is how you have to understand that what will be the consequence of statelessness, right? Then it will come about the different international law doctrines, or not doctrines, actually international law conventions that is related to the stateless people, right, convention related to refugee that is related to stateless people, right? Convention related to refugee, not only to stateless people, it is applicable to state people as well, but mostly it is applicable for stateless people, right? Then and you have to read those conventions in detail. I have given the conventions in the later part of this lecture. I will show you there are certain conventions which provide for what the stateless people right and duties have, right? Not with only respect to those people who are stateless, but also with respect to the country which is taking those people. Okay, so there are rights and duties of both of them, right? Now, one critical right that is there in the case of a stateless people, that if a stateless people is at your border, right, then you cannot determine his or her statelessness as at the border. You have to first admit that particular person. Once the admission takes place, then only you will determine the character of the statelessness. Okay, now that is Fox and this situation, right? That once you admit a particular person, right, at your border state, you are admitting a particular person at a border. Now once he is admitted, multiple other international conventions apply. Right? That was in question basically in the case of United States. A lot of people were at their border. Now the question is that can United States return them from the border itself? The answer is no, they cannot. So if the people are at your border, you have to necessarily admit him, right? And then you have to determine what to do with him. Understood that particular point? Right? And it is a good thing actually. That is a good thing because human being under everything, he needs almost he have lost everything and he's standing without any paper or anything on your border, right? So you cannot be expected, right? Or I mean, he cannot be expected to present you with all the legal documents, right? So first give him shelter, then decide whatever you have to decide, right? That is a very important aspect of international human right law. Okay, please keep that in mind. Then you will come to the human rights, right? Individually you will come to the human rights. Now there have been multiple questions with respect to human rights which are philosophical in nature, like that violation of human right at one place leads to violation of human right at another place, right? So why human right? Okay, see the second one, why human right and approaches to study human rights, right? There are multiple principles of human right as well as the humanitarian law. There are multiple principles, but basic principles of human right are what, right? So those things has to be studied. Now if you look at the different approach to study human right, or you can say different guiding principle with regard to human right is basically typical one, accountability, non-discrimination, right? Then we have sustainability. It means the human right should be given in such a manner that it is sustained for a longer period, right? Understood that particular point? Okay, so they are very typical component of human rights, right? So those sort of study has to be done, right? Then we will talk about major conventions, right? Now I will suggest you to go through three major conventions. Okay, one is the international conventions with respect to United Nations, multiple Geneva conventions, etc. Then I will suggest you to go to the regional conventions. We have African conventions, we have European conventions of human rights, and we have Asian conventions of human rights. Okay, to go to these local, regional conventions, and then you have to go to the individual with respect to India. That what conventions actually India have adopted. Okay. Now, if you look at it, our this Human Rights Act, right? That actually is a direct consequence of United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Okay, right? So the model law that was declared by the United Nations, we have actually adopted it. Okay, so you have to go into the nitty-gritty that what the international law talked about and what the Indian law actually provides for. Does Indian law follow that international law with respect to that? Okay, right? Yes, Adil is asking a good question. International repercussion of NRC. Yes, that will be a very good discussion, obviously, and that will be covered in the statelessness topic. Very correct. Kinsu, I think he's attending the class for the first time. No, it is the second class of international law. Now, I think third class of international law. Yes, it is the third one. Yes. First, second we have discussed, and three, fourth topic we have discussed. Today we are discussing 5 and 6. Okay. Okay. Now, if we go to different conventions, again we have multiple conventions that we have here, right? We will see that, right? It is given in our notes itself. I have provided you we will see that. Then here I have written itself, India's domestic law related to human rights, that is the one only, right? And how it adheres to international law, that I have just explained, right? You have to find a link, that what are the link that what are the articles that is given provided under the international human rights law, and what article have been directly written in our human rights law, right? So you have to find those link, and answer you have to cite it. If this article of our municipal law is direct sort of copy of that article of international, right? So pinpointing those copy makes your answer very nice. Okay, so please keep that particular thing in mind. Okay, then we will come to the next topic, that is your jurisdiction. Now, when I talked about jurisdiction, I talked about this particular thing, that jurisdiction basically implies that how and where you will be prosecuted and punished. Okay, right? So without determining the jurisdiction, right, a person cannot be punished. Which court will take up that trial? Okay, so jurisdiction question is a very important question, as I have already told you, not under the municipal law but also under international law. Now in international law, things become very, very problematic in the case of determining this jurisdiction. The reason being, international law obviously it is a body of sovereign nations, right? Now once it is a body of sovereign nation, then no nation wants that the crime should not be punished in my country. Every nation wants that, okay, the crime should be punished in my country. Okay, all right. Now there the dispute arises. Now as the world have become more and more complex in the terms of their international organizations or multinational companies, then the jurisdiction poses a new problem itself. Okay, so the traditional theory of jurisdiction was basis on personal jurisdiction, right? Where the person decides or where the person commit a crime, the jurisdiction will be there. Now, when we talk about not individual, but about an institution, right, a company, where that jurisdiction will arise. Okay. Similarly, we will talk about different, you will read about different theories of jurisdiction. Basically, there are two theories, right? Active personality principle, passive personality principle. Okay, right? That only relates to jurisdiction of individual, active personality and passive personality principle, right? But the question is, what will happen in the case of jurisdiction, in the case of certain category of persons, such as suppose jurisdiction in the case of high sea, okay, jurisdiction in the case of military aircrafts, okay, jurisdiction in the case of companies, okay, jurisdiction in the case of piracy, right? Jurisdiction in the case of piracy, right? So there are multiple jurisdiction principle applicable to these 3-4 group of people. Understood that particular point? Like for piracy, we have universal jurisdiction principle, meaning that whoever can see that okay, piracy is happening in the front of their eyes, okay, they can actually acquire the jurisdiction then and there, right? So no need of going into the nitty-gritty of jurisdiction, because piracy is considered a crime against the whole individual, I mean whole nation. Okay, right? I mean, animus vivendi, there's a very famous doctrine, right? It is a crime against humanity. Okay, so you have to talk about different type of jurisdiction in detail. Okay, you have to study about different type of jurisdiction in detail. Okay, I will also talk about some of them in notes I have given, not to worry. Now someone is asking, they are not getting notes right now. De facto IS, they will be sending you notes along with once these videos are uploaded on YouTube. Okay, so you will get the notes, and moreover, I have already given you the whole constitutional law, right? So those notes, even if you study by yourself, right, it will take at least it will take 2 months to study. Okay, so don't worry about these PDFs. Okay, you will get these PDFs at the time. Okay, each week one this will be uploaded, video will be uploaded, you will get the PDF. Okay, so not to worry. Okay, so please don't worry about it, you will get it. Okay. Yes, then we will come to the extradition, right? Now extradition and asylum is a very, very interesting topic, right? We will discuss that in detail in some time, right? So you first understand, I mean, read the concept related to extradition, right? What is the meaning of extradition? Component of extradition. There are two components: extraditable person, extraditable crime. Right? If both of them exist, then only a person is extradited. Right? Now, if we talk about principle, there are two broad principle that is being followed always. Right? The first broad principle that is followed, that the crime the act must be a crime in both the countries. Right? So double criminality principle. But if an act is crime in both the countries, then only the country allowed to extradite. Now, second is that no, only single criminality principle, that even a country, even the particular act is a crime in one country, still the person can be extradited to another country, even if that act is not a crime in that country. So two principle is actually followed. India follows the double criminality principle. Okay. Now again, extradition is obviously mostly depends upon the political will of two states, right? Political will of two states, right? Now, if we talk about political will of a state, then obviously if you have a friendly relationship, right, then double criminality principle can be waived off, right? And if you do not have a friendly relationship, the double criminality principle is not waived. Okay, now that actually creates a very important point. Okay. Yes, yes, every lecture will be uploaded on YouTube. Mr. Kinsu, Adil is asking, can Italian marine case apply? Yes, it was a jurisdictional issue, not won't apply. It was a jurisdictional issue. Okay, that is important jurisdictional issue. Okay, now the last topic that we have, right, subtopic is basically asylum. Now again in asylum the same point of format has to be there, that it's type, what is the type of asylum, territorial asylum, extraterritorial asylum, very simplistic things. Then interrelationship with extradition, right? There have been multiple time question where one ends other starts. Okay, where one ends other start, right? A country is giving you asylum, suppose, right? Now tomorrow, and then suppose some person from India is getting asylum in Pakistan. From tomorrow, suppose Pakistan and India becomes friend, and Pakistan will start its extradition. Okay, so where asylum ends, the extradition starts. Okay, or rendition starts. So that is a very typical question. This was asked. It have been asked multiple times. Okay? So a very simple. Okay. Okay, very common sense actually, right? And then what India's follows, right? In the case of extradition, which principle India's follows? In the case of asylum, which course, which principle India follows? Okay, so that part has to be specifically studied. Okay, so keep that particular thing in mind. Now, let's come to certain notes that I have given here, right? That you can actually use it for your own preparation, tune up your preparation. Obviously, it is not an exhaustive notes, obviously, only just 3-4 pages notes, right? That I have picked out from the notes itself. Someone is asking, can we buy notes? No, we do not. I mean, not to me. I mean, de facto wise, people do not sell notes, right? So notes are only reserved for law optional students, okay, foundation batch, right? So if you happens to know any foundation batch student, right, you may try to ask from them, but obviously they will not provide because they have paid for it, obviously, right? But still, you can try that. Okay, now let us come to the note and case laws, right? What are the important notes, not the whole one, but still. See, first is the Human Rights Nation, United Nations Charter. Now that United Nations Charter is the most important, right? United Nations Charter is the most important one, right? Why? Because it is where the human right basically for the first time became a very important subject matter of international. Before that, also we have International Bill of Human Rights, etc. Right? That was only a sometimes 3-4 states treaty, but for the first time, international treaty where each and every state committed to it is basically the United Nations Charter, right? So you can say that the human right movement actually gained its space only after the end of World War II and coming of the United Nations, right? So without United Nations, the human right movement would be nowhere. Okay, so everything springs up from United Nations, right? That chapter. Similarly, if you talk about environmental rights, environmental jurisprudence under international law, right? So that man and environment, the Stockholm Conference of 1973, right? That is the sort of a mother of all the international environmental laws. Understood that particular point. So similar thing happens with respect to this international human right law with respect to United Nations Charter, right? Now I have pinpointed that where you can find or what you can quote in your answer if you have to argue that okay, United Nations Charter is the most important charter, which springs up all the major theories of human rights. Okay, then what you can see, you can cite actually that Article 1 proposes the principle, and Article 13 the function or power of General Assembly, this right, and Article 56 actually talks about that we will jointly do whatever we have been said in Article 1. Now, if you look at Article 1, that specifically says that respect for fundamental freedom and human rights. Okay, so it means that this paragraph says that obligation have been created on all other members, and the above paragraph says that Article 1 and 2, which provides for function principle and the purpose of United Nations, right, that actually talks about protection of human rights, right? So it sort of create not only the human rights but also the enforcement mechanism related to human rights, right? Both is created by not the exact information mechanism but at least the moral information mechanism, so enforcement mechanism that is created. Understood that particular point, right? So please keep that two paragraph in mind, very important. Then there is one important conventions, right? After the UNDP, this came was basically International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Okay, now the civil and political rights basically contain those rights which have been interpreted in the same time in 1917 and it is by our Supreme Court. Right to life have been expanded to mean these civil and political rights, right? So you can also argue that how our Supreme Court took notice of this International Covenant of Civil and Political Right of 1966, and I have given certain articles also. See, inherent life of right, prohibition of torture, right? prohibition of slavery and forced labor. They were already there in our constitution, right, by default from the beginning. Toward right to liberty and security, freedom of arbitrary arrest and detention, already there in our constitution. Right of all deprived person of their liberty to be treated with humanity and dignity. Right. Now that is a very important point because the same thing case आपको याद होगा police brutality case state of West Bengal versus W.B. Basu. ठीक है, पढ़ा इस केस के बारे में W. Basu, राइट. तो उसमें आपने देखा होगा कि राइट A.K. Basu, not W. Basu, the state of W.B. versus A.K. Basu, right. In that you must have seen, right, there was a the judgment actually cites this convention and says that no, even if it is not given our in any law with respect to any type of dignity provided to arrestee, still India is a signatory to this covenant and that can be taken as a persuasive value. That particular signatory, I mean that particular document, this particular document can be taken as a persuasive value and posed in accordance past multiple directions. That is right now the law of the land. Okay, that particular point is clear. Okay, so it means that the court have taken the notice of this particular covenant, right? So you have to actually sometime remember the article related to that covenant. Okay, this is the article, this is what the court, our Indian Supreme Court have told. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Then we come to enforcement mechanism, right? Now here only I have given you international one. There are regional human rights conventions as well. You have to go through those regional human rights covenants. Okay, that I am not I mean that will be beyond the scope of this syllabus, right, at this particular class, but still everything have been mentioned. Mr. Kinsu, you watch the lecture from the beginning and you will get everything. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat the same thing. Okay, Kinsu. Okay, now the most important is basically the UN Commission, right? It is also called under the ISOC, Economic and Social Council, right, under Article 68. Article 68 actually provides that, see, for the purpose of enforcing or studying human rights, Economic and Social Council may come up with certain commissions, may come up with certain, body, investigative body, may come up with certain research, etc. Right? So everything shall be done by ESOC, right? So ESOC, for the purpose of enforcement of human rights, have created multiple commissions, right? And one of them is the most important one is UN Commission on Human Rights. Now, recently, Saudi Arabia became the head of the UN Commission on Human Rights, and that was very funny, right? Saudi Arabia as a head of Human Rights Commission, right? but still, that is there, right? That is there. Now they are, they always issue a report in terms of Kashmir, stupid people, obviously, right? Because in Kashmir, obviously, there are, I agree that there are some, bouts of violation of human rights, but you cannot say them to be, very, very, something they cannot be heard of, right? And then Supreme Court have multiple times taken notice, right? And they have passed multiple judgment in order to give them human rights. Okay, so you cannot say, Saudi Arabia at least cannot say that the human right of Kashmiris are being violated, right? Obviously they are, right? But what about the women in Saudi Arabia, right? What about their human rights? Right? That is a stupid thing. The whole Northeast, sorry, the whole Middle East, the western part of our continent, right? That is actually, you cannot say, that they are somehow, epitome of human rights movement. Obviously they are not, right? Because they are the most important violators of human right. Okay, but still, that is how the international law functions. Nothing we can do about it, right? Then let us come to jurisdiction. Now, with regard to jurisdiction, let us read. See, normally the jurisdiction accounts for three things. They are written here also. See, over person, individual jurisdiction, property, or act or event that varies in each state, right? Okay, so it is basically talking about three types of jurisdiction. Jurisdiction with regard to act. Now, act may be by individual or by a company, right? Or property, where it is situated. And third is the person. Person himself, where he is. Okay, so when you study jurisdiction, you try to understand the jurisdiction principle with respect to these three separate components: individuals, property, and act of individual or a person. Person means legal person also. So, clear? Okay, now the problem was not there when the Britain used to rule every country almost, right? So this jurisdiction problem was not a problem, right? However, there are multiple Privy Council judgments that have actually cited that no jurisdiction, the property which is situated in India, it cannot be tried in England, or the England court cannot pass a suit with respect to that particular property. There have been, a problem in that respect, right? But mostly it is, historically Britain is everywhere, so obviously that was not the case. Similarly, I have written here also, with the increasing of speech of communication and more sophisticated structure of commercial organization or enterprise with transactional ramification and growing international character of criminal activities, okay, especially in the field of narcotics and currency transaction, there have been a noticeable trend toward the exercise of jurisdiction on the basis of criteria other than that of territorial location, right? So actually this paragraph explains you the limit of territorial jurisdiction. Okay, सिर्फ आप territory wise jurisdiction देखेंगे, so these things cannot be handled, right? Because there is a huge act and certain part of that act is done actually in each and every territory. Okay, that obviously creates problem. Okay, so that is why, you know, two major principle is there: active nationality principle and passive nationality principle, right? So under this principle, the jurisdiction is assumed by the state which the person against whom the proceeding are taken is a national. ठीक है, पैसिव में ऐसा नहीं होता, assumed by the state with the person suffering injury are the national. ठीक है, कि जहाँ क्राइम हुआ है, जिसके जिस कंट्री में जिस इंडिविजुअल के खिलाफ क्राइम हुआ है वो कहाँ का, वो जुरिस्डिक्शन एज्यूम करेगा. और एक्टिव में कि नहीं, जिसने क्राइम किया है वो कहाँ का है, वो जुरिस्डिक्शन एज्यूम करेगा. अब दोनों के अपने इफ एंड बट्स हैं. लाइक फॉर द एग्जांपल पैसिव नेशनलिटी प्रिंसिपल, द गुड थिंग अबाउट इट कि भाई क्राइम जहाँ पे हुआ है एविडेंस कहाँ पे इकट्ठा होगा, वहीं पे जहाँ क्राइम हुआ. तो बेहतर वही है कि जो कोर्ट्स उस जगह सिचुएटेड है, उस टेरिटरी में जहाँ क्राइम हुआ है, दे विल बी बेस्ट सूटेड फॉर इट, right? In the case of active nationality principle, that doesn't, you know, takes place. Why? Because the crime had taken place in some other country and that guy is in your country. How will you collect evidence? How will the prosecution will take place, right? So active nationality principle, you know, have a practical problem in its implementation in terms of prosecution, but the passive nationality principle doesn't have something like that. Okay, right? So that is, you know, certain merit and debate in very brief I have explained. Similarly, with respect to piracy, I have talked about, right? With respect to piracy, the principle basically says that everyone, see, an offense subject to universal jurisdiction, one which comes under the jurisdiction of all state, wherever it is committed. In far as general admission, the offense is contrary to the interest of the international community. Okay, right? Yes, को हम लोग pyrrhus animandi भी कहते हैं, right? Latin word, that it is enemy of everyone. ठीक है ना? Pyrrhus animandi. Keep that in mind. Okay. Similarly, वो लिखा भी हुआ है, clearly the purpose conceding universal jurisdiction is that ensure that no such offense goes unpunished, right? So it will be the interest of every country if that person is punished, okay, that pirate is punished, okay. Now, I've given a very brief meaning of this. See, extradition, asylum. Extradition is basically, you know, based on two things I have told you. Let me repeat it again. One principle that is followed is extraditable crime, right? And second is the extraditable person, right? So if a person can be extradited, right? And in the case of crime, again, the two principles is followed: double criminality and single criminality. Understood that particular point? India follows double criminality principle, okay? And moreover, it is political in nature mostly. Like recently, I was reading a case where the Saudi Arabia prince, you know, one of the princes, Rajkumari, fled to India. Now, when she have fled to India, what she must have been thinking, that India is a free land, you know, the Supreme Court there will protect my rights. But Indian Army basically, you know, intercepted that particular ship and purposefully, you know, took that particular princess out and, you know, send her back to Saudi Arabia. Right now, how bad it is, right? So that cannot happen in US at all, right? If someone is going to US, right? So the judicial process of US will take into account everything regarding that particular person, right? लेकिन वो इंडिया भाग के गलती कर दे उसने, ठीक है? She should have gone to, you know, US, right? So that is a bad thing actually, right? If someone comes to India, right, in the fear that he or she have been prosecuted in other countries, so India should stand up. India should stand up that no, I will protect you. Right? That gives you, you know, sort of a soft power, land of the free, like the US, right? So this thing by our country was not good actually, but still it was done. Saudi Arabia, at least they are a rich country and a lot of, you know, Indian people actually work there, right? So we are very much dependent upon that, right? So that is a, you know, unique thing. Okay. Similarly, see here, the liberty of a state to accord asylum to a person overlaps to a certain extent with the liberty to refuse extradition to that person at the request of some other state, and overlapping based seen in grant commonly in asylum to political offenders who correspondingly are not the rule, not as a rule extraditable, right? So international law prohibits you to extradite a person if he or she is a victim of political crime, if he or she is a victim of religious atrocities, okay? So you cannot extradite that particular person, okay? And asylum stops when the extradition begins, right? So there are multiple times this question have been asked. You know, I have given this question here as well. See, there is one question. There must be some question here that where asylum starts. See, asylum stops as it were where extradition and rendition begins. You know, comment. Right. So this question is a very common question that is always asked in our exam. Okay, so you should, you know, sort of prepare a model answer for this particular question. Okay, now let us see the questions, you know, line by line. The first question is: discuss the scope of the right of asylum under international law and explain the territorial and extraterritorial asylum. I have told you, when you give asylum in your own territory, right, that is territorial asylum. When you give asylum to someone in your extended territory or notional territory, it means under your embassy in another country, right? That is called extraterritorial asylum. Like, Julius Assange is getting extraterritorial asylum, okay, in the embassy in the British, okay, in the Britain. Similarly, discuss the status of individual international law, especially with respect to human rights treaties. So I've told you the whole concept of human rights treaties are basically to protect individuals, right? And humanitarian law gives you all the rights, not as an individual but as a group. Okay, so that is the most important part. Similarly, 4 Geneva Conventions, very simple with respect to land warfare, wounded, sick, right? This basically is question can be clubbed in a humanitarian law as well. Okay, not only human right law but also humanitarian law. Okay, then we have a human right violation is now conceived as a violation of not only those personally and directly aggrieved but everybody. It means that violation of human right at once will lead to violation of human right everywhere. And philosophical aspect of it, right? We'll talk about how human right is inalienable, how it increases the value of human being. If the value of human being is decreased by a particular state, then it is very much a chance that that same state will decrease the human being of everyone, right? So when a single instance of human right violation, you are also under threat, even if you are not a party or you are not a citizen of that particular state, right? Because in the international relation, obviously you will interact with that particular state, right? So if that state has a habit of violating human right law, then do you think that your human right will be not violated? Obviously you cannot be so much sure, right? Okay, so that is philosophical aspect you have to answer it. Similarly, what is the role of United Nations in protecting and promotion and the protection of human rights? How far the Universal Declaration of Human Rights have been successful in creating human right culture? Again, philosophical aspect. Right here, you will talk about that how the United Nations have been the mother of it. which दो paragraph ऊपर हमने बताया था, right? That you will cite each pinpoint. You will pinpoint Article 1 and 2 of the UN Charter, right? And then you will write out how UNDP led to multiple creation of human right organizations, right? You can also write that the fundamental right in our constitution have been inspired by some of the principle of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. So not UNDP, UDHR. So clear, right? So that is the second part of the answer, and that is the first part of the answer. Okay, right? So these are very easy questions. Now these questions I have taken from last 10 years only, right? Not before that. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Okay, now which question I should ask you to write, right? The best thing you can write question number 2, right? Next time you submit question number 2. अच्छा, next time एक बात और मैं बताना भूल गया आपको. So next time on Thursday, right? Do attend that class. However, they were not saying that you should not attend, but I am requesting you, right? If you want, you can attend it. But I have requested them that let everyone attend it. That is the first class of writing practice batch. Okay, there I will explain in 1 hour that what are the question asked, general question, right? And how to approach those questions. Okay, very simple. Okay, so attend those class. That is the first class that is open for everyone. Okay, and obviously I will give you 5 questions as well. Okay, these are the 5 questions that you have to do, right? So those 5 questions I will also give it to you, right? And that will be obviously allowed for the person who takes admission, but at least first class you can attend and you can learn from it. Okay, so that will be okay. The timing will be same, that 1 to 2. So it means the coming Thursday there will be no class. Okay, I mean there will be no this class, there will be class related to that. Okay, so on coming Thursday keep that in mind. Okay, and please attend that class. Even if you do not take admission, please attend that class because that is really very important class. I will explain you a lot of good things. Okay, now I have got 2 copies to check, right? So let me check those 2 copies. Okay, the first copy is basically, I don't know whose copy it is, no name is there, but I think some Sivangi, I suppose, right? Sivangi, yes. This copy I have given. The state is becomes an international person through recognition only. Discuss is there any obligation of a state to recognize some other state, right? So that was the question. Very good question actually. Although the international law not recognized, but notice of refugee. Good introduction. Okay, if you could have cited some jurist, okay, cited some jurist, that would have been much great. Okay, so you then directly you came to the theory. Okay, good, constitutive theory. Okay, now what is this? Well, that is why I say presentation is very relevant. If you do not present your answer in a good way, if I am unable to read it, who is going to check this particular part of the paper, right? So presentation is very, very relevant thing. Okay, I have told you in the first class itself, we have to focus on 3 things, right? Presentation, structure, and content, right? You cannot skip any one of them, right? You have to focus on these 3 things. Keep that in mind. Then we have declarative theory. Okay, existence. Good. Rights and duties. No. This is the main thing. Duty to recognize. Okay. Yes, that is a good statement. Practice. Here also you can add that, okay, why it is a political act, right? You should write down that, sometime even coming of a state into existence is not in the interest of the person or in the interest of the state who is recognizing it, right? Sometimes the state do not recognize out of their self-interest rather than interest. Okay, so that point has to be cited here. Okay, so that point you could have written here. ठीक है, I think answer is not good, but between average and good. Okay. This person also have written, I don't know what his name is, but still, recognition is a method of accepting certain political. Okay, recognition. Then okay, person. Okay. Now again, see here you could have written something more, right? More here. Very less amount. Okay, write more. Introduction. Then write the word two theories. Okay, very simple. Very typical theories. International event. Then we have existing state comes into picture. Okay, according to declaratory theory. Okay, but again, see, even if you have written, but the main point that the requirement of the question is that it is a political act, right? So that requirement has not been met. आपने इस क्वेश्चन का पहला पार्ट आपने अच्छे से लिखा है, right? That first part you have seen that okay, you have talked about different theories, etc. That is okay, right? But the second part of the question actually requires you to comment that how it is a political act, right? So that part have been not covered at all in this particular answer. Okay, we have taken about different theories, right? But I will write the comment also. You can say that the substance of question not met. ठीक है, तो जो main part था question का, right? The second part, the whole 50% of the question that has not been answered at all. ठीक है ना? So that actually you should write that down and say accordingly, right? Focus on each and every part of the question, right? Do not only focus on one part. Understood that particular point? Okay. Now those who have joined us late, right? Please remember that on Thursday we will have class, but that class will be of writing practice batch, first class, so it is open to all, right? From the next class, obviously, we will not allow if you do not take admission or such, right? But at least first class, I have requested them to allow you, right? So that at least you will learn, right? That is the main point. Okay, yes. So on Thursday at 1 p.m. we will meet again and we will discuss everything. Okay. Now you have written about duty, Mr. SK. Achha, this is your copy. You have written about duty, but focus on that how it is a political thing that I have just told you, right? That sometimes the coming of existence of the state is not in the interest of that state itself. Okay, so that part you should keep that in. Okay, so that ends our discussion for today, right? No, there is no class in the group. It's mentioned that there is a class on Wednesday. So no, there is no, where it is mentioned there is a class on Wednesday. No class at all. Right? There is no class at all on Wednesday. Okay, I've told you previously I used to take class daily, but obviously optional batch have started, test series have started. So I'm taking a lot of time there, right? So that is why I'm only covering only on Tuesday and Thursday. And that GS paper 2 I have abandoned, right? So I'm not well also. So I tell that GS paper 2 I will not take. Okay. Human rights treaties you talk about, you can study human rights treaties with respect to Europe, with respect to South Asia and Africa. That will be all. Three will be more than sufficient. Okay. So that will be all for today. Now on Thursday, please remember, be at time at 1 p.m. right? Some of you have joined just right now, right? So that is very late, right? The lecture is being finished. Okay. So please join on time and at least at 1 p.m. please be there. Okay. Right. So Thursday, let us meet at 1.